Hi, and welcome to We Don't Know WLF1. I'm Anne.
And I'm Sarah, and we are two sisters, different sisters, who fell in love with Formula One, and now we have a podcast to make everybody listen to it, including our friends and family. How did I
Did
do?
great, Sarah.
I feel like it's big shoes to step into.
Unfortunately, Grace has having some internet issues tonight.
So you're getting the two fun sisters.
The two young sisters.
Yes. The two babies to talk to you about Drive to Survive. I know you didn't think we were going to skip talking about this season.
Drive to Survive is the reason that Grace and I both, and Sarah, all got into this sport. And even as I go through like way phases, I would say, where I enjoy it more and enjoy it less, I feel like it's always going to hold a slightly special place in my heart. And like, I mean, I have these memories of when I first bought my house, mom and dad were helping me work on the house, and we would each night go back to my old apartment and basically like sit catatonic on the couch for 2 hours watching Drive to Survive before we went to bed.
Were
We
you
were
watching
so
season
hard.
one or were you
Season
watching?
3.
Right, right. So you were watching like the current, quote unquote, current season.
Yes, we were watching season 3. It looks like Grace might be able to join us for a bit. We'll see.
Ooh, we'll see if she
Um,
pops in.
but
Yeah, I was on social media today, regrettably, and I saw like this little carousel of pictures posted. I maybe by F1, maybe by Netflix, and it was like all the drivers who have been on the show for multiple seasons, like screenshots from season one to season seven.
I know.
Here's what I'll say. Either these boys have really started tanning or I think that something has changed with the color grading of this show.
I'm sure it's both.
I think it's both. There's been some glow ups, I'll admit. There's been some serious glow ups.
I feel like especially when you
But
look at like
shocking.
early or like first season Lando versus today
Oh
Lando
yeah,
or
Lando was like a little baby
Alex.
child.
Yeah.
Yeah, and same with Charles.
Oh my gosh, yes, Charles looks so young.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Do you remember
But
how like just excited Dad was the first year when we all got so into Drive to Survive? And he was like,
yeah, it was like
my wife and daughters finally like racing.
truly all of his dreams coming true, I
It was
think.
very sweet. Okay, do we want so I have watched the first like 6 or 7 episodes. Sarah has seen the whole season.
Yeah. Grace popping in momentarily.
Yay! Grace has joined.
Really a journey. Truly, I'm on a journey tonight. For some reason now my internet's really fast.
Really?
It's
Well, that's
overcorrecting.
nice. So, okay, well, I was gonna say, in terms of my favorite episode, the episode where they were showing Carlos kind of like waffling with his decision of where to go after
Mhm.
Ferrari. I had no idea that he got so close to signing way earlier with Williams and then actually legitimately hesitated for a while. And yeah, which
Because of Flavio.
Flavio
that's
Carlos.
Flavio?
crazy.
Do you believe
It's hard to tell how much is orchestrated.
Sarah believes?
I believe he had a phone call.
I believe he had one phone call. Okay, I did like that for Steak. They like literally showed no meetings. They were just like, he's also seriously considering Steak. He's not
Like they
talked
would
to
Gonna be
anyone, but
they
Audi.
would just show
he's into
the
it.
headshot of the or like show in video frame the team principal of Stake every once in a while. Just so you remember it's still in the conversation.
Is he, well, also was he the team principal because they were like, he's actually an attorney and
He's
he's
the
the
Oh right, team
representative.
representative.
representative,
Yes,
which
thank
also was
you.
that like, I'm so confused. There has to be like legal issues going on between like the stake Audi, like how that's able to be negotiated, I assume was
It
why we didn't see him
Mm.
talk to
feels like
anyone.
it.
Yeah, I do
I,
think
I don't
at the end
know,
of the
but it seemed
day,
messy.
Williams probably, it seems like steak situation was messy, confusing. It's hard to make a good sell when you're like selling 2 years down the road, right? Flavio, fully crazy. Um, I think it's like he was a little convincing, and then you're like, wait a second, this guy's he there's a certain quality about him that's terrifying to me. But I think that James Vowels, he bagged Carlos because he was like, here's some numbers, here's data. Carlos is a nerd. This is what we know. And I feel like James Vowels was able to appeal to the nerd side of him. This is what I think made the final
Carlos
decision.
likes a plan.
He likes a
He loves a
plan.
plan. He loves a planner. Do you notice in all of his like stuff recently, he's been like describing me? I'm methodical. I like a plan.
I
I
like to
like,
plan.
I
I'm
feel
a
like he's been
planner.
like that for a very long time,
Oh yeah, but now he's just like really diet. He's like that. I'm
embracing
into
it.
it. He's
He's
embracing
embracing
it.
it.
I will say, I think the other favorite moment from that episode to me was when they caught the audio of Lewis and Carlos whispering
The
on the
best audio.
couch. Oh my God. And I've watched those like group interviews so many times, and I always want to know what are the drivers whispering about to each other while the other interviews are going on, and we finally got to hear some of it. Um, but it was interesting how Lewis it felt like Lewis assumed like, oh, of course Mercedes should be talking to Carlos to replace me. He's out driving everyone right now. And then like the way he was quite surprised that Toto had not called Carlos, I thought was a little telling.
Fernando? Maybe he was calling Fernando? I
I
loved
think Toto
Susie's reaction to
wanted
that.
I loved that too.
Although I'll say I
Incredible.
went on Reddit and everybody was like, that was a fake conversation.
It's all fake conversations, babe. But like,
I
what?
think Toto knew he wanted Kimi Antonelli from the minute Lewis decided to go to Ferrari.
Okay, here's what I
I
want
could
to
be
say about
wrong.
fake conversation is that I think, yes, they come over and they say, have a conversation about this, but I think they're making up their jokes. Like, I think that Toto thought
That
that was a
is
funny joke. It's giving
Susie's
dad joke.
perfect timing, comedic timing.
Like, but okay, okay, my hot take, and tell me if this is the way you read this conversation, was like when Carlos and Lewis were talking, I feel like at one point Carlos said like, "Do you think Merck is going to be fighting for wins?"
Yeah, he
And
did.
Lewis said no.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
That that doesn't surprise me that much.
I mean, yeah, because obviously that's why he's making his decision. So maybe that was also like a big thing for Carlos to be like, well, if Lewis is leaving Mercedes, that's not the team that I want to go to next.
Yeah. I
yeah,
was
better to be on a
surprised.
team that's near the bottom and heading upwards.
Than a team
Yeah.
that's near the top heading down.
Maybe?
Yeah.
But
I
then
don't
I also
know.
have to ask, like, well, I guess, like when you're not your own engine supplier, that is trickier, right? But then that's what McLaren's doing, and they're doing fine.
Mm,
I don't know, Wheel. I don't know.
I
Stop.
don't know. I will say I was surprised to see there were a few moments that they included, even in the first couple episodes, where it was like super early in the season of Lewis seemingly being pretty checked out
Oh,
from
yeah. Did you
Mercedes.
not feel he was checked out just watching the races? I assume, not to be too dark about it too, but like as soon as that announcement was made, he was not allowed in any of the like development meetings. So like he's already
Yeah.
like in a bad spot for like being competitive in that car.
Yeah. He's so media trained that I would have thought he would like hide how checked out he was a little bit more or a little bit longer. But
Is he so media trained? Because like he never does any media for Mercedes. I think he's like does great media when it's something that he cares about and wants to do.
True. Though I
He
did.
doesn't do things he doesn't like to do because he doesn't have to because he's
Because
a
he's
world
a
champion.
seven-time world
And
champion.
guess what? Max does the same thing. They've earned
Yeah.
it.
I do have to
I
say,
don't
like,
make the
I feel like
rules.
Max is way more media than Lewis.
We're not
yes, he
fighting about
does. There's
this.
no fighting about it. But also, let's
I'm
say
not
this.
fighting. I'm
I'm
just
just
sharing my opinion.
I'm noticing
That's
that I'm seeing stop.
fine.
I'm I am about to enjoy Carlos at Williams because when you're at the lower teams, like they're like, you are forced to do all F1 media. There is no getting
Yes.
out of it. But when
When is the
you're,
first team torque dropping?
I'm very stoked on that.
I'm very
Interesting.
excited. Sorry, I interrupted you, Grace.
No, that was all I was. No, I'm just saying, like,
That was
oh,
it.
what bit I watched the video on like who should you I can't even remember. It was just one of the F1 videos that they put out. The only driver I think who was in that from like a top team was Oscar. And then it's all just like steak, V
Oh,
carb,
where they had to say why
Williams.
you should put them on your fantasy team.
Yes.
That lovely
Yes.
awkward
I
video.
think Liam Lawson is in there too.
Yeah, he is. But it's
Yes.
giving like
And probably Kimi
anyone who
Antonelli.
could get out of this video got out of it.
Yes.
Yeah, my favorite episode of the season was Singapore. They did a whole episode where they
Oh,
followed five drivers
I heard about
and they
this.
gave them phones and they did little like vlog style videos. We got to see more of a few of the drivers that didn't get big storylines this year. Alex and Pierre were two of those drivers, which was so fun.
Yeah, it was
I
Alex
feel like you got to
Pierre.
see, yeah,
Was it
thank you. Um,
George and Lando?
George, Lando, and Charles.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
you're
right.
like all over the grid, but they're all friends. So they're like hanging out at different points. Really interesting friendship dynamics between like Pierre and Charles and Alex, thinking about the guys who are on top teams versus lower teams, how they all came up together. And now they're like kind of navigating that. It's really interesting.
I will say this. I've only seen half the season, but I so far like it much better than last season. I think last season was like quite a disappointment to me.
That's what I said. That's what
hmm
I
I
think
said.
you just always have to go in with somewhat low expectations.
No, I
And
would
then
say
you
like
enjoy it
this
for
lives
what
up
it
to
is.
high expectations because last season I just like I didn't like the stories they were telling. I didn't think it was bad. Maybe the season before was even worse, but like this season I'm loving the storytelling. But also like Carlos Sainz is at the central of
Yes,
it,
he
the center of it
is.
all. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
It was just
Uh
also a more fun season. There were like so many race
yeah,
winners.
there's so much going
There was
on.
actual battles for the championship. There was
Hmm.
all sorts of like crazy, silly season things going on. There were no driver changes from 2023 to
Yeah.
2024. Of course, it was a
Yeah.
boring season.
Okay, but like if you
But there
think
was
about
still a
the
lot of other
first
dramatic
few
stuff that
seasons,
happened.
yeah, the first few seasons of Drive to Survive,
This is what
like
Anne said.
Mercedes wasn't like Mercedes was dominating and they still made good episodes because they focused on the midfield teams that were fighting. And I think they could have done that last season, but they didn't.
This is
Yeah, but
exactly what I said to Sarah earlier today.
they also focus on a lot of the personal, like driver inner conflict things, which
Mhm.
I will say, I think they brought back more of that this season, and
Yeah.
it felt less manufactured than maybe like the previous two or three seasons,
Yeah.
where I was like, why are they doing this like whole Lando Daniel thing that doesn't seem to really exist?
Yeah.
The whole
Hmm.
like Alpine of it all, which maybe that was like somewhat real, but also was like too crazy to be totally real.
Well, and I haven't seen the Max Lando episode that I assume exists, but like even
Barely. There's
yeah,
not really
what
more than the one that we watched already.
well, what I'll say about it is I'm like, I don't need it to be played up. It's interesting enough on its own to
Yeah.
see like they really fight on track and they are genuinely friendly off track.
And like in the Singapore episode, Lando talks about he flew with Max to and from Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a very sweet clip actually in the episode where Max wins the championship where he talks to Lando and he's kind of like, your time's coming, man. Like That was great. What a
Oh,
great season.
Max is like,
It
I'm
was
about to
sweet.
retire and
I
be
hope so. God, I
full-time
hope so.
dad.
yeah.
You've got to take the mantle, Lando.
Full-time dad and streamer.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're manifesting that. I feel like he would be happier.
I
Let
will
him do
say,
Le
like, there was,
Mans. Let him
I think
do.
during like the Max Lando episode that I'm remembering, like they talk about both of their dads, and you're just like, yeah, no wonder Lando is. I was talking to
Doesn't
mom and
have what it
dad about,
takes.
no, I wasn't going to say that at all. You sound like Christian Horner. I was going to say that like Lando seems honestly so much more like mentally well. Not even that's not meant to be a comment on Max. I just like there was some comment Lando made during the season that to me kind of implied he was basically saying like if I win or I lose, I'm still myself at the end of it
He's
all.
giving
And I still have
therapy
to be
speak.
myself. He's giving
He's
therapy
giving,
speak.
someone else said this to me, and now I'm saying it to myself and this camera.
Yes. But
And we
like
love that for him.
yeah, but I was like, oh, that's actually like incredibly like yeah, he's very self-actualized in this moment. Um
He's also made
and
comments though of like after like tough breaks or when he's made mistakes in races, like not sleeping.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no, I'm
true.
not saying like
And
I'm guess when
yeah.
I say that I'm like it's obvious that he has someone who's giving him like
Yeah.
I think like better mental health advice and it seems like a lot of them have like performance coaches who are just like here's how to mentally win. And it feels like he has a therapist who's like, okay, actually, you need to be mentally healthy and then you
Hmm.
might win,
Yeah.
or you might not, but you'll still be
Yeah.
Lando Norris.
Hmm.
You know who else said that this season? I know you haven't watched this episode yet.
Tell me.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh.
Aw.
Yeah, he had a really weirdly, I feel like Drive to Survive gave him the send-off that Christian Horner did not.
Do they talk about that?
No, not a word about some of the like spicier moments. Not a word about George's disqualification
Yeah, I saw that.
after his win. Not a word about how Daniel Ricciardo said goodbye. There was a whole Red Bull, who will they choose episode, and it honestly was handled very strangely. But
And I've
he,
heard it doesn't even focus that much on Checo either.
not that much, no.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, well, wasn't there something about how Checo was like, they filmed all this stuff for me one year and they didn't use any of it, so I'm not gonna be on it again. So I
Yes,
wonder if
I
He's
don't
he's
still been
know.
not.
on it.
But maybe he was like, I'm not granting nearly as much access now. And so it's
Maybe,
like
and good
Maybe.
for
much less
him.
compelling
Maybe.
storyline.
Yeah.
They didn't
But
need much, honestly. I mean, they had clips of his races, and the way that they structured the episode was basically like, yeah, of course Checo's going to be replaced. So
Yeah.
who's it going to be? It's one of these three drivers, was basically
Yeah.
the storyline,
Yeah.
uh,
Speaking of Red Bull,
but not Yuki. He was one of the three, but
that
they
one is so
literally
dark.
not a single mention. They did Yuki
what?
so dirty. I'm sorry to tell both of you this. I hate that I'm
Oh.
spoiling the things.
Did you guys
How dare
have you
you?
seen the name of my fantasy team yet?
Yes. I had to really go fishing for the name of my fantasy team. I had to add a lot of S's to the end. A lot of names were taken.
Wait, really?
Yes. Maybe I just was not picking interesting names.
I'm like,
Um,
let me go look at the F1 group.
but speaking of Red Bull, do
Yeah.
we want to talk about the Christian Horner of it all?
I found it really bizarre, the whole thing. His Jerry got like more screen time cameos than I've ever seen of any WAG before.
I also felt
Maybe
like there was
Charles's
some
girlfriend.
I
weird
did like the
body
headline.
language coming from Jerry.
Well, yeah, in
I
that one
did, well,
episode, that was
the,
crazy. But then
Yes.
throughout the entire season, Christian gets a lot of airtime, and he's always like FaceTiming her or talking to her on the phone. Or their estate was in like 4 episodes. Their
ugh,
little English driving down the country road. It was kind of strange. I found it strange. It was
I,
giving, we paid them a
yeah,
little extra money to give us like a good
yes.
look.
I did like the headline that they put in the first episode where they talk about this, where they're like Jerry Haldwell's something something
Jerry
husband,
Yes,
disgraced
Falwell's
that was
husband.
so
disgraced
funny.
husband. Let's just
I
call
was like,
him
and
that
that
from now
is how
on.
Christian Horner should be referred to. It's giving feminism.
It's payback for F1 team principal's wife, Susie Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Mm.
mm. Yeah. But I mean, I've liked the season so far. I
Me
enjoyed it.
too.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the rest. But thanks for joining us, everybody, and hearing our thoughts on the season.
And excited for the race this weekend.
Yes, this weekend.
Melbourne.
Can you believe it? We survived the
We made it.
3 months. We made it.
Get your
Yay.
fantasy teams finalized. Set your alarm clocks
Yeah.
for a certain time.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. And we will see you early next week with an episode about Australia.
Bye.
Go
Bye.
Oscar!